¿Cómo se siente Puerto Rico? ¿Inspiradas? ¿Listas? Pues yo soy la que estoy inspirada por ustedes. Y voy a hablar en español, si no les moleste, ¿ok? Es mi tercera vez en Puerto Rico y no sé, pero me siento que hay una magia aquí, ¿no? Pero es la magia de la mujer boricua, ¿eh? La mujer. Y ustedes me hacen recordar una mujer que quiere mucho a Puerto Rico, que me enseñó lo que es la salsa, que es mi mamá. Una mexicana, pero que quiere a Puerto Rico. ¿Qué les parece? Bueno, ya les voy a hablar en inglés un poco, si no les moleste. My mother was raised homeless in Mexico, in Ciudad Juárez, the most dangerous city in the world. But she had one trait that inspired me and changed my whole life, which is that she didn't see what was around her. She always saw another world. When there wasn't food, there was lomo, right? And when there wasn't lomo, there was hambre. But for her, there was always alegría and posibilidad. And I grew up, I have to admit, I'm not like my mother. I'm not as much of a, I love to party, but I'm not as much of a positive person as she is. And I used to get afraid. When there wasn't money, that made me really afraid. And I thought maybe we're going to end up in the streets, like, even though we grew up in Chicago, I thought maybe I'm going to end up in the streets like her too, right? I don't know, the story she told me, she used to tell me like una inspiración, but for me, I was like, maybe I'm going to end up like that too. So I remember one time when she lost a job that she had, and the people that lived in my neighborhood didn't necessarily go to offices. They went to the campo to work. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just go to the campo, right? Like maybe I'll just work too, because I don't want us to end up like that. And I came to her one day and I was like, Mami, maybe es que tenemos que trabajar todos y que vamos al campo. And she said, ¿campo ni qué campo? Vamos a ir a la escuela mejor. Yo voy a estudiar. And I'm like, pero I mean, she didn't even have an 8th grade education in Mexico. She said, ay, ni qué, que la chingada. Yo voy a estudiar y voy a salir adelante. And she ended up getting her associate's degree and working at a dental hygienist's office. Totally changed her life. She never thought, nobody knows me here, what am I going to do? Salió. And that's something, my mom is an expert in dreaming wild, something that I haven't always been so good at. So I worked in New York. I live in New York now, and I went there because I wanted to work in magazine journalism. And I started out strong. I had all these ideas. I worked at 20 different magazines. But over time, a lot of failures started to pile up, and I started to lose my way. And it started to get to the point where I didn't even think I could be a magazine editor. Like, what do I know anymore, right? I just kind of lost the way. And there was one day where I got an invitation to edit a special issue of Cosmopolitan that would be dedicated to Latina women. And I don't know if you guys heard of this story already. I already told it a couple times, but I just pressed delete. I was like, eso no es para mí. I'm like, I'm not that girl anymore. And my friend was like, are you freaking nuts? That is definitely for you. You don't even have a job. So I was like, are you not okay with a job? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just don't know what I can do anymore. So long story short, I did the special issue. And the night before I took the job, I called my mom, and it makes me very emotional. And I said, you know what? I got this opportunity, and I don't know why I think they made a mistake. And she's like, ay, mistake, ni qué mistake. She's like, yo siempre sonaba eso para ti, y por fin lograste lo que yo soñé por ti. So another important message she told me es que cuando Dios abre la puerta, hay que entrar. And Dios me abrió la puerta, pero también le está abriendo la puerta a ustedes in a big way. So that's why the title of my speech is Dreaming Wild, how to find the fuerza that I've lost so many times to follow your dreams. And the first big part for me, is staking your claim. Now, one thing I love about our women and our little girls is they want to be entrepreneurs. Cosmopolitan, big Cosmopolitan, not the Cosmopolitan for Latinas, did a study of all women, and they did a special segmentation of Latinas. ¿Por qué no, verdad? So they did a study, and they found that young Latinas, right now, 40% of them want to start their own business. That's 10% more than the general market. So your example is already teaching the next generation what's necessary. The study also found that women want quality and success and want a better life for themselves. And my favorite part about it is that one thing I can't stand is what they put out there about us is that supposedly we're like so catty and not about women's empowerment. But they asked them how many friends made them feel bad about themselves. And only 3 out of 10 said that. By the way, which was almost half the number than it was for non-Latinas. So we're doing something right in this comunidad right here, is all I can say. Another question for you I have is, who wants to be rich here? Anybody? Why aren't all of you raising your hand? This happens to me a lot. I've spoken now at over 20 different organizations in the year. Maybe I should say in Spanish, ¿Quién aquí quiere ser rica? All right, there we go. That's better. I went to one group and everybody spoke English, okay, and only 20% of the crowd raised their hand. We need to get ready to take our space and own what we deserve. So how do you do that, right? I believe that we have a war that it's not a war where we're going to defeat anybody. Well, maybe we'll defeat a few people, but it's really a war where we're going to go after what we need to make our success happen. So one question, so I just got a big survey from the American Express Foundation about what is happening with women in business right now. First of all, let me ask you, how many women do you think ask their friends and their family for money when they're starting a business? Does anybody have a guess? Okay, 5%? 5? More? Anybody? Well, I'm talking to a bunch of Latinas, obviously, but 2%. 2% ask for money. And then, no preguntaron a Latinas, but and 5% ask their business communities for help. Every big major business that has succeeded in this world asks for investors and help. You don't just do it by yourself in a room. I mean, you can start that way, but we need to have a specific group of people that is helping us bring money into our communities. By the way, here's another question for you. How much would you invest in your own company? What percentage of your income would you invest? Anybody? All of it? 24%. 50? The number for women is less than 10. Now, who here would drop their plans to be with their children if there was an emergency? Everybody. So why don't you prioritize your business the same way? Fail forward. So this is my favorite. I know we've heard a lot about failure and bouncing back today, but I'm going to go into it too. Because I failed a lot of times. I've been in debt. I've been unemployed. I was just telling my staffers, I've had no electricity and I've had mice in New York, although that actually doesn't, you could actually have an executive job and have that in New York City, but I have been lost so many times. Now I have more magazines in English for Latinas than any other publication in the United States. Thank you. Thank you for that. But that's not why I say this, because most companies fail at least 3 times before they find their first profits. And yet, who has given up their dream? Who here has thought about quitting their dream after a setback? Come on, be honest. Don't make me say in Spanish. Me, I have. So failure is not an option. Moving on, pushing forward, trying again, that's the only option that there is. Find your 10. So one really corny thing that all my friends know about me is that I have a board of directors. But I've had a board of directors since I was like 22 years old. Like I didn't even have a job or an internship and I had a board of directors. Now that could be like your comadre from the block that helps you do your, grocery shopping. That could be your sister, right? Like that could be somebody, your mentor from school. I mean, I think everybody has those people on their board. But a more important person than that to have on your own personal board is somebody who knows about stuff that you know nothing about. In fact, you should have 3 people that have an expertise in something that, one, where you're going, your future expert, one, your current operations expert, and another person should just be your reality check expert. And that's not just a board of your own personal business. I have a personal board for my relationships. They're not happy with where I'm going currently. But I think having consejería in a formal way for your own personal dream, and my board, by the way, is not my board just for Cosmo for Latinas. I'm talking about the Michelle Herrera Mulligan board. And everywhere that I go, I recruit at least one person for that board. So I'm looking. Talk to me after this, please. You can't grow without a board. The next point is to shake things up. You have to do something different in order to grow your business. You have to change your trajectory in order to move into your next phase. So can I ask you guys, how many people have changed their view this year? Hey, that's a good number. Who's going to change something specific after you leave here today? All right, this has been a good conference then. Great job, everybody. The next thing I would say is to be relentless. So being relentless, what does that even mean? You cannot give up ever. And you always have to have another dream. So after we launched the magazine, the internet wasn't actually even in the plan, believe it or not. We were just going to launch a magazine that we're going to put on the newsstands in 2012, when magazines weren't doing that great. But we thought, let's try a new voice. Let's try that Cosmo vibe with a really strong American female spirit. Let's do something big. And we did pretty well. We sold our first issue very strong, and I was proud of that. But I was like, shouldn't we have a little thing called a website here? Maybe that'd be a good way in. So we started that with the same 5 people we had for the magazine, and we've grown somewhat from them. The first month, I think we had 100,000. And over time, we now have 2 million visitors a month, which makes us one of the biggest. Thank you very much, you guys. It makes us. But what do I want to do with that 2 million people? What do I want to move forward with? It has something to do with what I'm doing right now. Because this conversation right now is live on Periscope, or at least I think it is, right? We're going live on Periscope. And what my mission is to not just talk to 2 million Latinas around the world. I'd like to talk to 20. I'd like to talk to 100 million. And I want to have a conversation right now, which I am doing, and I want to continue that conversation about what it means for us to have success. And let's follow up with that, because it's not enough for us to just sit here and talk and come to this conference, but congratulations for showing up here today and making yourself number one. Give yourself a round of applause. Congratulations for staying all day for this conference. So the next point I want to make is about el futuro, a topic that is very, very precious to me. So there's a lot of very important information on this slide. If there's one slide of this whole thing you take a picture of, it's this. The biggest job that exists in the world right now is in technology. And technology can amplify every business that exists. I don't care what it is, technology will make it better. And there are only 1% of Latinos that are working in technology right now. 1. So we really need to amp it up a little bit, right? I mean, we need to step it up because we use technology 3 times as much as non-Latinos do, but we don't work in it. And we need to work in it. We need to work in it because we need to move forward with whatever our plans are, and technology is what is going to take us there. So how many of you here have a plan for bringing technology into your business in the next year? Don't shake your head at me. Do it this way. All right. I'm only seeing about 3% of this room right now. Who's going to think about doing it in the next year? Okay, that's better. It should be 100% of the room. I'm glad you're honest, though. So before I go, I'm going to end earlier because I want to give you guys a little bit of time to come up with questions. But I want to show you a really special organization to my heart that I just found out about last week, which is called Las Tecnológicas. And this is a movement that is going on right now with young people that are going into a pipeline to learn about technology. So don't act like there aren't resources out there. There are resources out there that are ready for you. There are people out there that are going to train you and train your organization on what you need to do. Because I don't want, by the way, for us to just go in the door when Diosito te abre la puerta. I want to tear down that freaking puerta and build an empire. So now, with that, I'm going to leave you with a little video here. I hope it loads. Oh.
Hi, my name is Jessica Santana, and I'm one of the co-founders of New York on Tech. New York on Tech is on a mission to prepare the next generation of technology leaders emerging from New York City. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. And particularly the neighborhood I lived in was a low-income community, majority African-American and Latinos, with not a lot of resources in schools or even out of schools. But I think that because I had a very supportive family who was always interested in me going to the college and really going to the university, I think that's what I really needed, to know that there was a space for me to go and pursue a higher education. And this is my father. He fought in the Korean War. And this is my wonderful mother, Casilda Santana.
Oh, yeah.
I was adopted when I was 3 years old, and I didn't know that I was adopted until I was about 7 years old, but it was like nothing changed, and so I wouldn't change anything at all. Like, my mother and father have been such a huge support system. I think was very pivotal to have that support, and so I'm very thankful for the relationship I've had with my mother and father, because they played a very instrumental role in what I believe that I can achieve. So my mother and father migrated here in the 1950s from Puerto Rico. They left everything behind, from their family to their loved ones, everything they cared about, to live the typical American dream. And when I think about all that they have sacrificed and all that they've given up for me to have half of the opportunities that I've had, I don't really make an excuse for not being successful. So basically, when I graduated from Syracuse, my family was in the audience and they had maracas. And I think every time I crossed the stage, they would like play the maracas because it's like ode to Puerto Rican culture. Yeah. So this is my co-founder, business partner, best friend, Evan. This is one of my greatest friends, Kwaku. They came to support me during my master's graduation. I chose technology because when I was at a very early age and I was living in my community in Brooklyn, I didn't have a lot of resources. All I really had was the internet. I think education and technology was the start of a trip for me. I studied accounting because it was the only thing I knew outside of being a lawyer and being a doctor. And I think that is the traditional story for first-generation college students, where we don't know about all of these career opportunities for us. But fortunately for me, I did catch on, and I took that leap of faith and turned that offer down, and created my own pathway to go ahead and explore my professional interests. So New York on Tech, the purpose of the organization is to work with students who come from underserved backgrounds, and we really prepare them, develop them, and mentor them, and provide them with a network that really helps them create a path towards technology, whether that's going straight into the workforce or that's going ahead and pursuing a baccalaureate degree in a technology-related field. I think technology is innovative, it's fast-paced, it's always evolving, and because of the fact that it's such a rapidly changing industry, I think that there's room for everyone to participate in it. If I could give advice to any people from the community that I'm from, or from New York City in general, from underserved communities, I would say that hard work and dedication trumps anything. And I think that when you really put your mind to it, you can achieve anything you want. In some years, I want to be the President of the United States of America. I know that for some people that's a long shot, but I do believe in the power of communities, and I do believe in the power of mobilizing people. And I do feel like I have a unique story, and it's a story where it reflects a lot of people in this country who come from, you know, marginalized communities and are now building their American dreams in this country. So if I could be a voice for those people and for the American public to create a more inclusive society, I think being the President of the United States would be really cool. I am a Latina and I love technology.
Thank you so much, Animus. Thanks so much, Puerto Rico. Thank you for being here today. Keep that going. Email me your plan.
Thank you, Michelle Herrera, muy bien, por ser tan accesible a todos nosotros.